What is going on, my fellow web developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be learning to create a calculator inside of React.js. Now, as you can see on screen, I have this very nice trendy looking calculator, and we're going to be taking the Google or the Android phone's calculator for the example, where when you enter in a value, actually keep it here, it won't start doing the calculation straight away. We have a tiny little results thing here that's kind of going to show you what your results would be, and then you can do -3 whatever, and then we can click equals and actually get the final result there. As you can see, we can then do, let's say, +4 times 5 divided by 2. Actually, not divided by 2, we have a delete button. We wanted it divided by 6 equals, and bam, we get this crazy ass number here. And there you go. So that is what we're going to be building in today's video, guys. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so I have a fresh folder here just called YT, standing for YouTube if you're wondering. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to press Control, comma to open up my, this on Windows, on Mac I think it's Control Options T. Anyway, and then I'm going to type in here npx create react app, and then I'm just going to do dot, which is going to create in the current folder. So it's going to create as a boilerplate React application we can use to get started developing this calculator app. So while that runs, well, you'll see me when it's done. Alright guys, as you can see, it is all done. All we have to do now is close this. And we can start editing our files. So on the left here you can see our files have been generated, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete a few of these now. So let's zoom in just a little bit so you can see that a bit better. I'm going to delete the app.test, app.css, we're going to delete the logo.svg, report webvitals.js, setuptest.js, and then once we've deleted those, I'm going to head into index.js, remove the instance of report web vitals to actually delete the calling function, and then I'm going to go into app.js and I'm going to delete both those calls up there. We're going to remove everything from inside of app, and I'm just going to put hello world, and then finally I'm just going to highlight this all. I'm going to go down to tab size, detect the size, and swap it to using tabs and tabs 4, just because it's better and easier to read. And there you go. So we now have a base application. We can also go in here and just delete everything from inside the index.css, close the app, and then here. So let's just down at the bottom here we can run npm start, and what this is going to do is going to actually start our React development server. And that's going to load on the right side here, as you can see, and it's just going to say hello world. So we can close that now, and any changes we make will be made live on the right side. So there we go. So the first thing I want to do is actually set up the markup and do the HTML. We're then going to do the CSS, and then finally we're going to add the functionality. So with inside app, we're going to add a div with the class of calculator. And then we're going to have a display. And inside display, we're going to have a span, which will have our little result. So we'll just do 0 there. And then it will have our actual value here. So again, we'll just do 0 there for now. Then underneath display, we're going to have operators. And this is going to be all our divide, times, plus and minus values here. So we're going to create 4 buttons. So I'm going to say button times 4. And in the first one, we're just going to have divide, so a slash. The second one will be times. Third one will be a plus, and the final one will be a negative. So let me just break these down so they look a bit prettier and not so ugly. Let's close that sidebar and zoom in one more. There you go. So you can see here we now have our buttons. And we're going to create one more button underneath, and this one's going to be the delete button, so it's just going to say delete. Underneath the operators, we're going to have the digits class or diff, and inside of here, we're going to have basically from 0 all the way to 9, and then decimal places as well. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm just going to say button, and we're going to have a 0. We're then going to have a button with a dot, and finally we're going to have a button with an equal sign. Now you're probably thinking, Tyler, why have you gone 0 dot equals? Well, the reason for that is because we can set up these buttons here, but I want to do from 1 to 9 using a function. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if we didn't use a function, we would have to write out 9 buttons going from 1 all the way to 9 like this. But we don't want to do that. We want a function that's going to actually write them all out for us and actually do all the functionality. So up here inside of our function, just before the return, we're going to have a constant called create digits equals, and it's just going to be an arrow function. And in here, we're just going to say const digits equals, and we're just going to set an array for now. We're then going to say for let I equal 1, and I'll explain why we're starting at 1 in a second. And when it's less than 10, I plus plus. So what we're doing here is we're creating an array of digits where we're going to store our actual array elements. We're then going to say let I equals 1. The reason we're starting at 1 is because we want to actually, we've already got 0, we just need it from 1 to 9. So we're saying start from 1 and finish before we get to 10, which means we're going to finish on 9. So we're going to create from 1 to 9. Then all we're going to do is we're going to say digits.push, and let's break this down. And now we're just going to say button, and then we're going to put little things in there, and we're just going to say I. And that is basically, we also need a key as well, because obviously we're looping through this. But what we're going to do is we're going to say buttons from 0 to, from 1 to 9, we're going to basically just generate them here. And then under here, we're just going to go return and digits. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go create. And I'm going to go down here. And we're just going to paste in create digits. And obviously, we need to call the actual function. So we're just going to say that. And there you can see we now have the buttons from 1 to 9 already displaying on our screen on the right side here. Now, I think that's actually super zoomed in, so we're going to zoom out a little bit. But there you go. You can see we have our display, our buttons, and all our digits, our operators and our digits, all here displaying how they should. Now, that is it for the markup. We don't actually need any more markup. We may need to add in some variables here and some functions, but otherwise, this is all done. That's it for the markup. So what we're going to do next is we're going to move over to our index.css file. And we're going to start by styling this out. So I'm going to create a root where I'm going to store my variables. Now, if you don't know what CSS variables are, they're basically awesome and you should look into them. I'm not going to explain exactly what they are, but basically you'll see in this video how you can use variables to basically make your life a lot easier. We're going to have an 8C, 3A, FF, and we're then going to have a dark color, which I'm going to set to a 1.3, 1A, 2.6, and then finally a light color, which is just going to be just like that. We're then going to say our margin for everything is going to be 0, our padding is going to be 0, and our box sizing is going to be border box. We're then going to give everything a font family of Fire Sans, and then we're just going to say sans serif there. Hit save, and on the right you can see that's already taken effect. Now, I don't know why this has gone slightly over, so let's just there we go. That'll do. If we slam this to the left, will it allow me to... There we go. Much better. There we go. Now it fits. So in here, we're just going to... Under here, we're just going to say body. And all we want to do for the body is set a background color of -- light. Now that's just going to set our background color to our light variable here. And if we ever want to change this, we could just say, let's say 333. You can see we can change it on the fly like that. And that's why CSS variables are amazing and you should all be using them. and they don't support. There's polyfills for Internet Explorer. You don't have to worry about that. So we're going to set our app, and we're going to set it to a display of flex. We're going to give it a min height of 100 VH if you want it to come all the way to the top. We're then going to align the item center and also justify the content to be centered. This way, everything is now going to be in the middle of our screen. We're then going to get our calculator. And what we're going to do is we're going to give it a width of 100%, a max width of 400 pixels. We're then going to say its background color will be just a simple white. And we're then going to say its border radius is 16 pixels. We're then going to have an overflow of hidden because we don't want anything overflowing. And finally, we just want to have the box shadow. And this one is going to be 0 pixels, 2 pixels, 64 pixels, RGBA 0000.2. And that's just going to give it a little floaty effect there. So as you can see, that's now all done. And it's looking a bit good. We should, yeah, if we're able to pull out there, you can see it does have a constrained width. So cool. Now, underneath calculator, we're going to set up our display. Our display is going to be equal to a padding of 16 pixels. It's going to have a text align right. We're then going to have a background color of dark. That did not work. Background color of dark. We're going to have a color of light. And we're going to have a font size of 24 pixels. A font weight of about 300. And finally, underneath display, we're going to set the span to be a font size of 14 pixels, a font, and then a color of, we're just going to do an 888 for our gray. There we go. There you go. So that's looking a bit nicer, and it's now good. So that's now styled up. We then want to get our actual buttons. So we're going to style all our buttons in one. So we're going to say the appearance is going to be none. We don't want them having any of the default styling. We don't want them having a border. We don't want them having an outline. We want them to have the color of by default to be white. We're going to then basically set the font size to be about 16 pixels. Sorry, 20 pixels, not 16. That'd be way too small. And then we're going to have a padding of 16 pixels, a cursor of pointer, because using appearance none removes that. And then we're going to have a transition of 0.4s. So as you can see on the left there, our buttons are now styled. They don't look amazing, but they're there, they're ready. So what we're going to do is underneath button, we're just going to say button hover, and we're going to give them a hover effect. And what we're just going to say is opacity 0.9% or 0.9 overall, sorry, not percent. Hit save, and now when we hover them, they're going to go a bit lighter. You won't be able to see it yet, but we'll add that in soon. So underneath here, we want to go operators, and we just want to say button. So operators, and we want to say display flex, because we want them all to be flex. And then we want to go operators button will be flex 110%. Now that should stretch all of these buttons to be equally sized across the top here. And then we're going to set the background color to be our primary color. There you go. And finally, our font weight to be about 700, because we want these ones to be bold. And there you go. Now you can see the styling is now working. It's looking pretty good. Underneath operators, we're going to have the digits, not the gidgets, the digits. Digits. God, my typing is horrendous, but it's fine, guys. We've got this. So we're going to display this as a flex item. We're then going to give it a flex wrap of wrap. And then we're going to say dot digits buttons or button. And we're going to give these a flex of 133.333%. So we're going to basically stretch them so they all fit across there. We're then going to give them an actual max width of 33.3333%, just to make sure, you know, they don't ever go above that. We're then going to give it a background color, and these ones are going to be dark. Oh, that's not how that works. Hold on, dark, and there you go. You can see now they've got the base styling, which I really like, and there we go. So that's now done, and that is actually all the styling we need for this. As you can see, our calculator is now done. You can actually select different buttons. I mean, they don't do anything yet, but it's all there and it's ready to be functionality. So let's add in the functionalities to our little app. Also, let's go up to our app here and just give it a padding of 16 pixels. That way it'll bring it in so it's not touching the edges and now look a bit nicer, especially that did not work. Why are you not work? Oh, it did work. So there you go. Cool. Let's bring that down. So let's just remove the index there, the CSS, and now we are back in our app.jss file. Now we need to actually import use state. For this, we're going to say import, and we're going to say use state from React. And then underneath function, we're going to create a constant, and we're going to basically say calc, and then set calc is equal to use state, which will be equal to just a string. We're then going to get our result, and we're going to have a set result, which is equal to use state, which will also be a string. We're then going to have just a constant called operators, which is or ops, which is going to basically tell us what our operator values are equal to. So we're just going to set all the operators and what they're equal to. So this is going to be divide, or a /, a asterisk, a plus, and a minus, and finally a period or a dot. And there we go. Yep, reload, you're fine. And there you go. Now we have our operator, so we can actually use that later on. Now, underneath our operators, we're going to actually create a constant called update calc. Now, this is actually going to be an arrow function, and we're going to pass through something. We're going to basically pass through a value. And each one of these will be a value. So our buttons will all represent a value. And when you click one of these, it will basically apply this to our calc. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to say set calc is equal to calc plus value. Just like that. But there's going to be a few issues with this. But for now, let me show you what happened. So let's get our update calc. Let's go down to our display here, and let's actually swap this out to be our calc value, or using the two things, or it'll be equal to a 0, and there you go. So if there's no value inside of calc, it represent a 0, and we're going to do a similar thing for this span over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. I'm just going to say we're going to say result question mark. So if there's a value, we're going to do span, else we're just going to return nothing. And there you go. Now that's disappeared. So if there's a value, we'll show it. If not, we won't. And there you go. That's now done. We're then going to use our update calc in here. So we're going to say up or on click. And every single one of these will basically be a quick arrow function, which will say update calc, and it will have a string value of whichever item it is, and in this case it is the /. So we're going to have a update calc of this. So I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to put this on every single, not the delete. So the delete and the equals will be two exceptional buttons, or different buttons. They won't use the same function. I'm then going to have a plus, and finally I'm going to have a negative value here. We're then going to go down to the 0, and we'll do the same here. Will be equal to 0. Period will be equal to the period, and the equals button will actually be separate. So let's space that away from these ones here. We then need to actually go to our create digits function and add the exact same thing here, but instead of applying this here, what we're going to do is we're going to say i.toString. Now we need these to be strings, because if not, we'll have some issues later on. But basically, we'll say it here. We got that. Let's just break that down just so it looks a bit neater. And we'll break that onto a new line just so we can read it easier. And there you go. So now we have this function here, which is passing through the update cal i.toString down here. And that should be correct. So let's actually have a look here. If we now start adding buttons, you can see it starts adding everything here. Now you can see there's a few issues here. We can add multiple operators in a row, which isn't a good thing. And our delete and equals do not work. So if we just refresh here. So what we need to do is inside of our update calc function, we actually now need to do an if statement. We need to say if, and we're going to break this down, and we're going to say if our operators includes the value and the calculation is currently equal to nothing, or ops dot includes value and the ops dot includes, and then we're going to check the last. What we're going to do here is we're going to check the actual last value we entered. So here all we're saying is if it's equal to, if the last value is an operator and the calculation has nothing, or our operator the value is an operator and the last value was also an operator, we're going to return and not do anything. So now if we click, you'll see nothing will happen. If we add a 2, we can then add a minus, but we still can't add an extra, and then we can add our 3. So you can see there, that's how we can limit the operations there. So this little line here just prevents you from adding in loads of asterisks. Same with the dots. You can't add a dot straight after a minus. We go 5 dot 5 and then minus 5 dot, but you can't add a dot after a dot as well, so we can't have multiple dots as well. And there you go. So that is now done. Let's refresh our screen again. So that's all good, but now how do we update our results? So underneath set calc, we want to do if not ops dot includes value. So if the last item was not a value or not a operator, we're going to say set result to eval, and now evaluation basically, this will basically, whatever the string you pass in, it will evaluate it. If it's a 5 plus 5, it'll give you 10. If it's 5 plus 5 plus 5, it'll give you 15. If 5 times 5, it'll give you 25, and so on. So we can say calc plus value, because the calc actual value will not be updated until the next frame or the next call. Dot to string. Now to string again is important because we need it all to be string related. And there you go. That is going to basically update. So if we go 2 plus 5, you can see it's showing, but it's not actually giving us the right value there. And that is probably because you can see here we left a 0. And now in here we just need to say result. And there you go. We get 7. So let's refresh here. And let's say 2 plus 5 gives us 7. Also, I notice there's no space, so let's just add a non-breaking space there, just so we always have the space there. And there you go. That's now added in. And we can now do, let's say, minus 5, give us back to 2, times 10. And there you go. That's basically doing the operation all there and then. So now how do we actually evaluate this? So when we click equals, it's not doing anything. So let's actually create a new function. And this is going to be called calculate. So we're going to say const calculate is equal to a set calc, and all we're going to do is eval our calculation dot to string. So our current calculation or our current calc, we're just going to evaluate. So whatever we have in here, we're going to evaluate and actually return it. And then inside of our equals button, we're just going to say on click calculate, just like that. And now if I click, you'll see it gives us our value here, which is perfect. So if we just do 2 plus 3, oh no, I wanted a 5, we now need to delete one. So let's go back up and let's create a constant, let's call it delete last. And we'll set this equal to an arrow function again. And all we're going to do in this one is go if the calc is equal to empty string. Wait, if calc is not equal to an empty, no, if it's equal to an empty string, we're going to return. Else we're going to basically say const value is equal to calc.slice 0, because we're going to start at 0 minus 1, which is going to remove the last value. And then we're going to say set calc to be equal to our new value without the following one. So now if we click delete, well, let's actually refresh. 3 plus 2, delete. Oh, so the reason it's not working is because I foolishly forgot to actually add the click event. So we're going to set the click event there. Now, if we hit delete, there you go. You can see it will remove it. We can go 3 plus 5. And there you go. We've got the same effect there. -2 times 1 for no reason. Delete. We didn't know that. 5. And there you go. You get all the calculations there, which is perfect. So everything is working as it should. And that is how you make a calculator in React.js. So guys, I hope you have learned something useful in this video. If you have, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Let me know any questions you have in the comment section below and I'll try and reply. Do not forget to join our Discord server. The link is also in the description. We get talking on that quite regularly. Reason it's been a bit inactive, but normally it is flowing with conversation. So don't forget to get involved in that channel and I will see you in the next video. Peace.